There is a quiet urging that endlessly stirs within every human being, a subtle yet powerful calling not from the outside but rising from deep within. No matter where you are, whether you live a life of abundance or struggle, in the stillest moments when the lights are out and the noise of life fades away, you feel it, that sense that something remains incomplete, that a part of you is waiting to be awakened. This is not the echo of the mind but the whisper of the soul. The soul has never slept. But you have fallen asleep along the path back to yourself. The Christ within you, the pure flame, unconditional love-living wisdom, has never disappeared. He has only been silent, waiting for you to open your heart and remember. Remember that you have carried this sacred essence within you since the very beginning. Life itself is not a labyrinth, but it becomes one when you forget your true essence. People mistake themselves for their roles: the father, the mother, the successful one, the failure, the wounded one, the victor. Yet all these masks fall away when the soul speaks. And when you begin to ask, who am I if there is nothing left to cling to? Who am I when there is no one left to impress? Who am I when fear no longer binds me? These questions do not lead you toward knowledge but toward awareness. Awareness that you are not this body nor the stories you tell yourself. You are the one observing it all, without judgment, without attachment, without a name. Every pain you have endured has a purpose. It does not come to break you but to awaken you. Each time you are wounded, a part of the ego cracks, and through those cracks the inner light begins to shine. You do not need to despise your wounds. What you once thought of as weakness is in truth the doorway to truth. For only when you reach the bottom do you finally pause and look up. Only when there is no way out do you turn inward. And it is there, in the very place you arrive last, that you find the only place you were ever meant to enter. No journey outside will ever lead you to the Christ. Yet every outer journey brings you to the edge, to the limit where you have no choice but to return within, and that is where the miracle begins. Not everyone who lives is truly living. Many are merely existing, moving through life on autopilot. They are driven by fear, by society's conditioning, by standards they never truly chose for themselves. But no one can live your life for you. No one can step into the sacred realm in your place. Awakening is an inner work deeply personal. It requires no ritual. It requires no theory. It only asks for one moment of absolute honesty. When you stop running, when you cease blaming, when you dare to face the emptiness within yourself, fullness comes. Not from the outside pouring in, but from the inside overflowing out. For the Christ has never left you. He has only waited for you to peel away each layer that has dimmed your light. Listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. Let every heartbeat remind you that you are alive, and that this life is no accident. There is a greater purpose at work behind everything that seems meaningless. The people you meet, the failures you've endured, the dreams you've lost, all are pieces of a larger picture, and your soul is the painter. With infinite patience and unconditional love, it paints the path home stroke by stroke. You may have wandered blind, doubted and lost your way, but none of that has diminished your original worth. The Christ is not given to you as a reward for doing good. He is your very essence. You do not need to earn what has always been yours. You only need to remember, and that remembrance is resurrection. When you remember, light fills the darkest corners. When you remember, peace ceases to be something you seek. It becomes your natural state. When you remember, you no longer live to fight against the darkness, but to radiate the light. You may feel unready. You may feel too wounded, too complex, too consumed by life's demands. But none of us is ever truly ready for the sacred. And yet, paradoxically, that is the only condition for the sacred to arise: surrender. When you stop trying to control, when you whisper from the deepest place of sincerity, I don't know anymore. That not knowing is the doorway. That humility is the key. The Christ does not dwell in pride. He abides in the heart that recognizes its smallness before the vastness of the universe, yet carries within it something greater than the universe itself: unconditional love. And then you will feel something light, gentle, and profoundly serene. It is not like joy. It is not like excitement. It is as if someone has lit a candle in a room you've lived in your whole life but never truly seen. You begin to see everything as if for the first time, yet with a strange familiarity. Because this is home. This is you, stripped of all roles, all masks, all fear. This is where the Christ has always been. Not out there, but in every breath, every glance, every stillness. And you, after all the wandering, have finally returned. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, there is still something missing in life, even when you achieve things others long for, even when you are recognized, loved, even respected? there is still a silent emptiness that creeps in every night. A question keeps returning, persistent and unspoken. Why don't I feel enough? The answer does not lie in something you have yet to gain. It lies in what you have lost, your true self. And that forgetting, quiet but profound, is the root of all suffering humanity carries. People do not suffer because of circumstances. They suffer because they have forgotten who they are within those circumstances. Every negative reaction arises from a false assumption that you are separate, that you are lacking, that you are under threat. But these assumptions only exist because you have forgotten that your true essence is light. When you forget, you begin to believe that your worth depends on what you own, on whom you love, on what you achieve. And when any of those things are taken away, you collapse. Not because the loss is too great, but because you have placed your who I am in things that were never meant to last. Suffering does not come from the event itself. It comes from misidentification. When you mistake yourself for the boat, the waves will always terrify you. But if you realize you are the ocean, the waves can no longer threaten you. I want to ask you something, and answer honestly. Do you remember the last time you sat in stillness and asked yourself, who am I when there is no role left to play? Not the father, not the mother, not the provider, not the optimist, not the wounded one. Just you, without titles, without labels. Do you remember that feeling? If you have, you know it is one of the most precious moments of your life. And if you haven't, then right now is your chance to step into it. If you are ready, leave a comment, I am ready. Or simply type the number 1. Just one character, yet a powerful sign that you are beginning, that you no longer want to live another day in forgetting, that you are daring to choose transformation, starting here, starting now, and so that I know I am not speaking alone. To know that you are there on the other side with that courage in your heart, it is truly sacred to someone like me who creates this content. Thank you. I am grateful for you, because from this moment on, if you are still here, you are no longer just a listener. You are a soul awakening, a soul stripping away the false layers the world has placed upon you for so many years. These layers may carry names like expectations, duties, old beliefs, past wounds, but they are no longer who you are. You don't need to fight them. You only need to look at them directly. You only need to ask, is this truly me? And in that very moment, awareness arises. Awakening is not a process of adding, but of removing. Like wiping the dust from a mirror, you do not create the reflection. You simply allow it to appear. Your essence is the same. It has never been lost. It is only obscured beneath layers of identities that were never truly yours. When you stop long enough and honest enough, you will see something profound. There is a stillness behind every thought, a clarity behind every emotion, and it has always been there, patiently waiting for you to return. It is not easy to awaken in a world that constantly pushes you to rush. It is not easy to remember who you truly are when society sells you countless illusions. But truth does not need to be easy. Truth only needs your courage. No one but you can walk this journey home. No one but you can say, enough, and begin. But once you begin, the entire universe responds. In one way or another, the right things arrive. Doors open, and the peace you once thought was distant becomes the most familiar thing in every breath. Forgetting makes people believe they are alone in this life, that they must fight, compete, prove themselves. But all of that is only the result of not knowing who they are. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the embodiment of light experiencing this world through the lens of humanity. And when you remember that you no longer live with fear but with gratitude, you no longer live to merely survive but to serve. You no longer live to avoid pain but to radiate love. It is time to let go of everything that is no longer you. It is time to stop fixing the mask. It is time to stop running from the dark, because you do not need to fight to become light. You already are light. And the darkness, when met with your light, dissolves on its own. Once again, if you are ready to step into this new chapter where you no longer live as a role but as your purest essence, let me see you. A single one or a simple I am ready is enough for me to know you are here. There is nothing more precious than that presence. Not because I need validation, but because I know you need to be seen, not by the world, but by yourself. And if you have read this far, I believe you are no longer the same. A part of you has awakened, and there is nothing more sacred than a soul beginning to remember itself. I used to believe that in order to touch the sacred, I had to climb mountains, retreat into solitude, meditate in silence, or go through some mystical, extraordinary experience. But then one day, in the simplest of moments, sitting in the middle of a crowded street, breathing slowly, letting go of every thought, I suddenly realized something earth-shattering. The Christ is not far away. He is within me, and I had never truly been separated from him. No words are needed, no rituals are required. Just one breath, slower, deeper, more conscious, is enough for him to reveal himself. His presence does not arrive as some grand miracle, but as a quiet, undeniable nearness. It is a knowing that cannot be proven yet, cannot be denied. Like the simple fact of your existence, you do not need to explain it. You simply know it is so. When I began to observe each breath as if that very breath were the answer, everything changed. I no longer saw myself as a seeker of truth, but as a part of the truth itself. I no longer felt that I was living in the world, but rather that the world was living within me. Every cell seemed to open, ready to receive the light. A life beyond mere physical existence unfolded, deeper, quieter, infinitely more powerful. You do not need to understand who the Christ is according to any doctrine. You only need to recognize that within you there is something that has always loved unconditionally, that silently heals, that forgives endlessly no matter how many times you've lost your way. That is his presence. When you are angry, he does not condemn you. When you are in despair, he waits. When you turn away, he does not vanish. He lives in every silence, every breath, every tear, and even in the simplest laughter. Many ask, how do I connect with the Christ? The answer is not about doing something. It is about stopping. Stop chasing the world. Stop trying to control everything. Stop striving to become something. Because when you stop, you realize he has never left you. This is not a destination to reach, but a remembrance, a returning to the pure essence you have always been. I once thought of him as a distant figure somewhere high above, but the deeper I lived, the clearer it became. He lives through me in my compassion. In every moment I choose forgiveness when retaliation is possible. In every moment I choose love when resentment would be easier. In every moment I sit quietly with my emotions instead of running from them. That is when he is most present. No form, no name, but undeniably real. There was a time when I faced a crisis so overwhelming that I thought I could not endure it. And yet in the deepest breaking I felt something. The pain had not come to destroy me, but to strip away everything I am not. In the very heart of despair he spoke. Not loudly, not forcefully, but softly, like a passing breeze that calms everything within. In that moment I understood the Christ is not out there for me to search for. He is the still, silent center within me. The place no one can touch, yet I so often forget. We were never taught how to live from that place. We were taught how to strive, to achieve, to reach higher. But the Christ asks for none of that. He does not require you to strive, to prove, or to earn. He only waits for you to be present. When you are truly here, in this moment, in this breath, in this raw experience, he is alive in you. He is that very presence. No sacred robes are needed, no holy gestures required. Only truth. People often ask, how do I know if it is the Christ within me, and not just my mind creating something? The answer is simple. When it is him, you feel light. There is no fear, no strain, no need to prove anything. There is only ease, openness, and unconditional love. That is the only sign you need. Because the Christ does not come to add burdens. He comes to lift them away. I do not write these words to teach you. I share them because I have stood where you stand. I once believed I had to become better, brighter, stronger to be worthy of the sacred. But it was in the moment when I felt my worst, my weakest, my most exhausted that he entered, not to fix me but to hold me, completely exactly as I was. And when I let go, the light poured in. If you are reading this, try something simple. Pause for a few seconds, close your eyes and feel your breath. No need to control it. No need to force anything. Just feel it. You will discover that amidst the endless noise of life, there is still a place untouched, serene, and inviolable. That place is where the Christ dwells. That place is the wellspring of renewal. That place is not above you or beyond you. It is within you. We have been searching for God in the skies, in scriptures, in symbols, but the sacred has never been far away. It lives in every beat of your heart, in every glance you give infused with empathy, in every embrace, every tear, every moment you dare to face yourself. The Christ has never been a concept. He is an experience, and that experience always begins within. I do not need you to believe in anything. I only invite you to listen to yourself, because once you realize the Christ within you, you will need no further proof. You will live differently. You will love differently. And you will become the embodiment of the very light you once searched for in the darkness. I once believed that I was everything that had ever happened to me. I was the abandoned child, the failed adult, the unhealed wounds. I carried an entire history on my shoulders, memories, mistakes, and scars, as if they were the ultimate proof of who I was. But the further I walked, the heavier it became. Not because life itself was heavy, but because I was carrying too many things that no longer belonged to me. I thought they were me until one day I let them go. And the truth revealed itself. I had never been the things that happened to me. The ego is the greatest storyteller I have ever known. It takes the darkest chapters, the most painful tragedies, and weaves them into your identity. It whispers, "You are everything you've endured. You are the unerasable stains of your past." But it never asks, who are you without the past? Who are you if no one remembers those things anymore? Because if it dares to ask, it dissolves, and you become free. We live in a society that glorifies the past. People worship experiences, elevating everything that has happened as though it defines you forever. But I tell you this with all the lightness I found, you are not this body and you are not that past. You are not the old stories. You are the one telling them, and you have the power to choose a different story. There was a moment when I stared into the mirror for a long time, no longer noticing my hair, my face, my skin. I simply looked into my own eyes. And I saw something strange, something deeply alive, profoundly real looking back at me. It wasn't the body. It wasn't emotions. It wasn't memory. It was pure presence, untouched by time. That presence had never changed, even though everything else had transformed 100 times over. That is the real me. The ego is an intricate construct of the mind. It is built from every judgment, every wound, every compliment, every expectation ever placed upon you. It collects fragments of experiences and stitches them together into a character, with a name, a form, a personality, a history. Then it says, "This is you. You believe it. You live as if it were true." But the ego never tells you its secret. It is not someone. It is just an idea repeated so many times that you mistake it for reality. I am not denying the value of experience. I only want you to understand something. Deeper experiences are what happened, not what you must keep carrying. They are footprints in the sand, not carvings in stone. You can learn from them, but you do not have to define yourself by them. Awakening begins when you dare to ask, who am I when I no longer play the victim? Who am I if today were the very first day I exist? Letting go of the ego is not easy. It is tied to your sense of safety, to your longing to be understood, to be empathized with, even to be pitied. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, how much have you paid to keep that story alive? How many new possibilities have you denied yourself because of an old identity? How many times have you told yourself, I am not worthy, I cannot, I am this kind of person? Those voices do not come from your soul. They come from the ego, terrified of losing control. And here is the truth: when you stop telling the old story, you do not become someone else. You simply return to who you've always been. Not the self shaped by society, by parents, by the past, but the original self, pure, nameless, timeless, boundless. When you live from that place, you no longer need to prove anything. You simply are. And that presence alone is powerful enough to make everything else fall into place. I used to think awakening was about finding something extraordinary, but now I understand awakening is the journey of shedding, layer by layer. The layers of, I am the victim, I am the failure, I am the one left behind, I am this body, I am that history. When all the layers are stripped away, you find nothing. And in that nothing, you finally see yourself. I am not telling you this so that you deny your past. I am telling you so that you can sit with it one last time, thank it, and walk away. You no longer need to wear it like armor. A new life is waiting for you. It does not require you to be perfect, only light. Light from the ego, light from the story, light from every rigid idea of who you think you are. And when you are light enough, you rise, not into the skies, but into the true freedom no one can ever take from you. Sometimes the ego does not disappear quietly. It resists. It whispers, if you are no longer you, then who are you? Do not rush to answer. Just breathe. Because with every conscious breath, a part of the ego dissolves. With every moment, you dare to be present without retelling your history, a part of your soul awakens. There is no need to fight, only to realize. Realize that you have been whole from the very moment you stop trying to become something else. From this moment on, I invite you to look at yourself with new eyes, without labels, without the past. See only life, unfolding, flowing through you, inviting you to remember. No effort needed, no striving required. Simply sit with yourself and ask, who am I when there is no past? Let the question open the door. For what lies beyond is not an answer, but an entirely new way of being. I once believed the world was an objective, independent, and unchanging reality, a stage already built where I was merely an actor placed upon it. But as the days passed, as events unfolded, as joy appeared and disappeared like fleeting clouds, I began to realize something profound. The world does not stand still, and I am not separate from it. The world is a mirror, and my mind is the one gazing into it. When my mind was in chaos, the world became chaotic. When I felt lacking, life around me seemed small and confined. When I believed myself to be insignificant, everything suddenly appeared threatening. But with just the slightest shift within, one changed thought, one newly planted belief, everything outside began to transform as if reality itself were being reconstructed from a hidden light within. In that moment, I understood I am not merely someone living in the world. I am weaving the very fabric of this world with every thread of my thoughts. The mind creates. This is not a slogan. It is the deepest truth of every conscious being. You are not sitting passively in this life as an idle spectator. You are the artist. And every thought you paint, though invisible, carries its own life, its own power shaping form and substance in the reality around you. The world does not respond to the words you speak. It responds to the energy beneath them, what you truly believe, truly fear, truly expect, and truly reject. I once lived trapped in a relentless cycle. My mind constantly thought of lack, and life continuously confirmed it with real scarcity. Each time I blamed life, it answered with yet another challenge. Each time I doubted myself, the world outside seemed to mock me in return. Until one day, when I was too exhausted to keep resenting, I began to observe. And I realized it wasn't the world working against me. I was working against myself. Every limitation I projected onto life began as a quiet thought, a subtle belief repeated so often that it became a law in my personal reality. Have you noticed? When you believe a day will be bad, almost everything that happens seems to prove you right. Yet when you step out the door with an unexplainable sense that something wonderful is about to happen, even if nothing big occurs, everything feels lighter, warmer, easier to breathe. That isn't superstition. It is the delicate interplay between the energy of your mind and the shape of your life. The mind does not just produce thoughts, it emits frequencies. And each frequency is like an invitation sent out into the universe. When you live in fear, you transmit signals that call in experiences matching that fear. When you live in gratitude, you send out signals that draw in things worthy of appreciation. The universe does not choose according to morality. It simply reflects with perfect honesty. The mirror of life always shows the face you are carrying within. I have tested this truth more than once. Every time I shifted my inner state, from resistance to acceptance, from doubt to trust, from anger to forgiveness, my reality shifted with it. Not always instantly, but always inevitably. It is like planting a seed. You don't see the tree growing on the same day, but you know without question that it is growing silently, invisibly, and unstoppably. Your thoughts are the seeds. Your life is the garden. We often wait for circumstances to change before we allow ourselves to think positively. But the truth works in reverse. It is the deeper, authentic shift within your thinking, not a forced optimism, but a grounded understanding, that transforms your circumstances. Because everything that happens outside is the echo of what is unfolding inside. You cannot shout into the mountains, "I love life," while carrying resentment in your heart, and expect the mountains to echo back anything else. And here lies the most important truth: you have the power to choose your thoughts. You may not control every automatic thought that appears, but you always have the power to decide which ones to nurture and which ones to release. Your mind is the soil. You are the gardener. Every day you choose which seeds to plant. That choice is your sacred creative power, one you have always possessed, though you may have forgotten. You do not need to force yourself into false positivity. What you need is to remember your freedom of choice and begin practicing it in the smallest ways. A gentle word to yourself instead of self-judgment. A moment of gratitude instead of comparison. A pause to listen instead of reacting. These little shifts may seem insignificant, yet they alter the entire frequency within you. And from there they transform the mirror you call the world. No one can think for you. No one can feel for you. No one can define the world on your behalf. Every person looks at life through a mirror polished by their own thoughts. So pause and ask yourself, what is your mirror reflecting right now? And if you do not like the image you see, do not try to smash the mirror. Change the gaze. When you begin to live as though every thought carries the power to shape reality, you naturally live more consciously, more present, and with greater love for yourself. Not because you fear being wrong, but because you finally understand you are worthy of a life that reflects the clarity and purity within you. And you come to realize one simple, timeless truth: change does not begin in the world. Change begins in you. I am. Two short, seemingly simple words, yet they carry the most sacred power that every single person is constantly using unconsciously, creatively and ceaselessly. It is not merely language. It is not simply a way to describe yourself. I am is the very first name that the divine revealed when asked about its essence. I am that I am. And from that moment, all creation began. I used to pay little attention to the way I spoke about myself. I am someone who worries too much. I am someone who struggles to succeed. I am someone unworthy of love. These statements slipped out naturally like a habit. I thought they were harmless. But over time, life began to bend and shape itself according to exactly what I declared. My mind sought evidence to prove those statements true, and the universe, like a loyal servant, rearranged circumstances to fulfill the command, even though I never knew I had given one. I am is not just an introduction, it is an invocation. Whatever you place after I am becomes a seed planted in the soil of your mind. And if repeated enough times, that seed grows into the law that governs your life. You do not need to believe in it. You do not need to try to make it work. Because your deepest consciousness does not distinguish between right or wrong. It only knows this, whatever is spoken with certainty. Island. When I began to pay attention to how I spoke about myself, I was stunned. I realized I had been cursing myself every day, not with harsh words, but with subtle, innocent-sounding identifications. I am a failure. I am not good enough. I am someone no one will ever love. Those words were like invisible shackles locking me into a smaller version of myself, one I had unknowingly created. So I decided to try something different, not by forcing myself to chant empty affirmations, but by returning to the truth that before I was anything, I already am. That I am needs no conditions to be complete. I am itself is enough. I began to say, I am light, I am peace, I am love, I am freedom. On the surface, these statements might sound cliché, but when you close your eyes, quiet your mind, and softly whisper, I am peace, from the deepest place within, something stirs. It is as if truth itself nods back to you from inside. The sacred name, I am, is not meant to glorify the small egoic self or to create separation. It is a reminder of your pure essence, before the body, before the name, before the past, before the roles you play. When you speak I am, you are touching the deepest layer of your existence. Whatever you place after it does not merely describe you, it begins shaping your reality. It is the mold through which your experiences are formed. There is a secret few are willing to believe whatever you repeatedly call yourself with genuine feeling becomes true. Say, I am fortunate, and fortune begins to show up in the smallest corners of your life. Say, I am clear-minded, and your intuition sharpens. Say, I am guided, and unexpected doors begin to open. It is not because you are forcing the world to change. It is because you awaken a power within yourself, a power you have always possessed but rarely used consciously. We so often imprison ourselves in the language of the past. I am afraid. I am lacking. I am powerless. These identifications become labels, and the labels become destiny. But the truth is this: you can rename yourself. No paperwork required, only awareness. Starting today, you can choose a new name for yourself, not to pretend but to remember. Because you do not need to learn how to be the light. You only need to remember that you already are the light. I once gave myself a challenge. Every morning I would say softly, I am loved 10 times, slowly, fully present, without judgment. I did not need to believe it at first. I did not need to feel anything special. I just practiced, and something strange began to happen. I no longer needed to force myself to love anyone, nor did I need to hope for others to love me. I simply felt it, in my actions, in my interactions. A gentle softness began to infuse everything. Resistance faded. Defenses dissolved. Everything felt as though it was melting into harmony, because the name I had chosen began to work. From within. I am not telling you to deny your real emotions. There will be days when you feel sad, angry, or lost. But even in those moments, you can still hold a small flame. I am life restoring itself. You are not denying your feelings, nor are you labeling them as permanent. You are simply reminding yourself that everything passes, but I am remains, whole, untouched, unbroken by any temporary role you play. When you relearn how to speak to yourself, you relearn how to create your world. You do not need to wait for miracles to arrive. The very act of changing your inner name is the first miracle. Every other miracle is simply the unfolding that follows. They do not come from outside, they rise from within. not by luck, but by the resonance between your soul and the higher truth you choose to embody. Pay attention to how you speak about yourself throughout the day. And if you catch yourself trapped by old identifications, pause, take a deep breath and gently whisper, "I am light. I am a new beginning." At first it may feel like nothing more than words. But if you keep planting these seeds, they will take root. And when the roots grow deep, the flowers will bloom. No force required, no struggle needed. Only a quiet, steady knowing the name you choose becomes the life you live. I once believed that everything happening in my life was due to chance, fate, or someone else's decisions. Like so many others, I lived as though life was a game of chess where I was merely a pawn moved around by forces beyond my control. But little by little, through both painful trials and miraculous moments, I came to realize a deeper truth. It is not the world that is creating me. It is my consciousness that is creating the world I experience. Consciousness is the cause. Everything else is the result. Whether or not you believe this, whether you resist it, deny it, or feel unready to accept it, the truth remains unchanged. You are not living in a random world. You are living in a world that mirrors with precision the state of consciousness you hold, silently, deeply, and more powerfully than any words you ever speak. Your beliefs, whether chosen consciously or absorbed unconsciously, are the molds shaping the experiences you live. If you believe you are not good enough, you will encounter one person after another, one situation after another, all reinforcing that belief. If you believe life is a battlefield, you will constantly find yourself in situations where you must fight. And if you believe the world supports you, every step will seem to unfold as if the entire universe has been waiting for you to arrive. I do not say this to make you feel guilty or to blame yourself for the past. I say this so you can begin to see life not as something imposed upon you from the outside, but as something arising from within you. Everything you see around you, your work, your relationships, your health, your opportunities, your challenges, is neither punishment nor reward. It is the neutral result of the beliefs you carry in your consciousness. Someone once asked me, if everything comes from belief, why do I still experience suffering when I genuinely want good things? And my answer was this: what you want is one thing, what you believe is another. Desire plants a seed, but belief determines whether it blooms. Many people say they want success, but deep down they believe they are unworthy of it. They say they want love, but in the depths of their hearts they fear abandonment. They pray for peace, yet every day they live in defense, distrust, and tension. The world does not respond to what you say. The world responds to what you truly feel. Consciousness is not a spoken prayer. It is the vibrational state quietly operating behind every thought. If you truly believe you are loved, you do not need to prove it, test it, or seek reassurance. You simply live as though it is obvious. And then every glance you meet, every small event that unfolds, begins to confirm that belief. I once tried a simple practice every morning before getting out of bed. I placed my hand over my heart and asked, what is the dominant belief within me right now? Without overthinking, without analysis, I simply felt into it. Some mornings I found doubt. Some mornings I found quiet joy. Other times I discovered a hidden fear. Only by seeing clearly could I begin to shift. With one new choice, one small decision to choose a higher belief, I could change the direction of an entire day. The challenge is this: most of us do not know what we truly believe. Because your real beliefs are not in the words you speak, but in the way you live, the way you react, and the way you face yourself when things do not go your way. Do you panic when you lose control? Do you fear being hurt so much that you shut down emotionally? Do you feel the need to constantly prove yourself to be accepted? All of these reactions stem from foundational beliefs you may have never named. But here is the miracle: beliefs are not permanent. They can be changed. And when you change your beliefs, you change your entire reality. You do not need to start your life over. You only need to begin again from within. Every time you choose to believe in a higher version of yourself, you activate a new current of energy. That current begins rearranging the pieces of your life, quietly, subtly, and irreversibly. I remember the first time I truly believed I was worthy, not as an idea, but as a knowing born from somewhere deeper, beneath the wounds, beneath the disappointments, beneath the rock bottoms I had faced. It felt like stepping out of a cramped, suffocating room into open air. Nothing outside changed instantly, but I no longer felt trapped. Every choice I made afterward became lighter, clearer, more aligned. And the result? Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. Yet suddenly things began arriving at the right time with the right people in perfect rhythm. Because I had shifted my state of consciousness, and from there, life shifted around me. You do not have to instantly believe in the most beautiful possibilities. But begin by observing the beliefs quietly operating beneath your actions. When you are afraid, what are you believing? When you are angry, what are you defending? When you are avoiding something, what are you resisting? Each answer leads you back to the root, the place where consciousness begins, where every outcome is seeded. Consciousness is not theory. It is the most powerful creative force in the universe. When you truly understand this, you stop being impatient with the world outside. You stop trying to force life to bend to your will. Instead, you return to tending the garden of your inner consciousness, because you finally know results are only shadows. The cause has always been within you. There is a subtle truth that not everyone realizes. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. You can pray with all your heart. You can desire something so deeply that it brings you to tears. But if your inner vibration remains rooted in lack, fear, or doubt, then everything you attract will only reflect that very vibration back to you. I used to wonder why my most beautiful dreams always seemed so far away, while others seemed to receive what they needed effortlessly. I prayed for love while carrying a deep fear of abandonment. I begged for peace while my mind was tangled with chaos and constant defensiveness. I thought I was moving closer to what I longed for, but in reality I was sending the wrong signal, the wrong vibration, and life faithfully returned an exact mirror of it. The law of vibration does not care what you think on the surface. It responds to the true frequency you are emitting, the one that flows from your deepest emotions. Like a magnet, you do not attract what you want. You only attract what matches you. The more you feel lack, the more you will draw experiences that confirm that lack. The more gratitude you embody, the more life opens pathways to bring you things worth appreciating. There is no moral judgment, no question of right or wrong, only energetic compatibility. We often believe we are asking for something good, but pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is the feeling beneath that prayer? Is it trust or is it worry? Is it abundance or is it fear? Is it light or is it helplessness? Your true vibration is not found in the words you speak. It is found in the state you carry in every moment. And that state is the invitation, the signal sent out, the map the universe reads when it responds to you. I began each day with a simple shift in perspective. Instead of asking, what do I want today? I asked, who am I today? Because a person vibrating with the belief I am love will act, choose, and respond very differently from someone vibrating with, I am wounded. That subtle difference leads to entirely different outcomes, not because of action itself, but because of the energy carried within the action. Vibration is the language of the soul. It needs no words, no proof. It is always transmitting endlessly, whether you are aware of it or not. And the universe, like a perfectly neutral mirror, faithfully reflects whatever you are sending out. There is no favoritism, no prejudice. If you radiate the vibration of generosity, life opens more for you. If you radiate the vibration of anger, you will find more reasons to be angry. This is not punishment. It is the honest feedback of an unchanging law. I remember trying to fake a vibration once. I spoke positive words. I acted as though I was happy, but inside there was still emptiness. And then I learned the universe cannot be deceived. You can fool others with a calm face. You can fool yourself with pretty words, but you cannot fool the energy field you are emitting. It is mercilessly honest. And yet this honesty is also a miracle, because the moment you truly change from within, you do not need to do anything else. Everything around you begins to transform naturally. So how do you shift your vibration? Not by forcing yourself to think positive, instead by returning to neutrality first, and from there consciously nurturing the emotions aligned with the reality you want to live. If you desire love, learn to feel love even before anyone specific arrives. If you long for peace, learn to sit still and touch the fullness within you even when the world outside feels chaotic. It is by becoming first that you draw in what you seek. I once asked why some people seem to need nothing yet always have so much. The answer does not lie in indifference, but in steadiness of vibration. They do not need because they already are. They do not seek because they already carry. And the universe simply brings them more of what matches their state. But when you constantly seek what you feel is missing, the signal you send is, I am lacking. And the universe replies, yes, you are. Do not pray to have, pray to become. Because when you become, there is nothing left to chase. What you need will find its way to you, not because of luck, but because you are broadcasting the right frequency. The law of vibration does not distinguish between beautiful words and fearful thoughts. It only knows one thing: what you are. Think back to the times you felt truly at peace. You were not overthinking. You were not trying to control. Yet everything seemed to flow effortlessly. That was no coincidence. That was alignment. Your vibration resonating with life's natural rhythm. And recall the days when everything felt heavy and difficult even though nothing bad actually happened. That is the sign you have drifted away from your true essence. And when you begin practicing the art of becoming what you desire, life begins to shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. Different people appear, new opportunities unfold, doors you once overlooked quietly open, not because you did something extraordinary, but because you realigned your vibration, and from there you no longer need to struggle to attract. You simply live like a natural magnet. You are what you attract, not by logic but by frequency. So ask yourself, what vibration am I carrying in this very moment? And if it is not the one you want, do not fight it, do not resist it. Simply replace it with the one you truly wish to be. There is a truth that left me silent for a long time. When I finally realized it, everything happening outside of me is telling a story within me, a story I had never dared to truly face. Every person I meet, every situation I encounter, every success or failure I experience, none of it exists outside of me. The world is not a place I came to in order to find myself. It is the place where I am reflected, honestly, sharply, and relentlessly, showing me exactly who I am being in this moment. I used to believe that other people hurt me, that circumstances disappointed me, that society was unfair, that the world was harsh, that life was filled with endless struggles. But after reliving the same pain, the same patterns again and again, I began to turn inward and ask, if everything I see is a reflection, then what within me is creating this picture? The outer picture is always the result of the inner blueprint. What we perceive is never absolute truth. It is a version of reality filtered through our perceptions, memories, judgments, and beliefs. You do not see the world as it is. You see it as you are. And every person who crosses your path arrives as a perfectly placed mirror, giving you the chance to see yourself more clearly. The parts you already know, the parts you deny, and the parts you have never dared to love. When I meet someone who constantly triggers my anger, I have learned to pause and ask, what within me is being activated? Could it be that I too once behaved this way? Could it be that I am reacting to a part of myself I have yet to forgive? The answers never come immediately, but when they do, they always arrive with humility and awakening. Because that person was never the problem. That person was the mirror. The wound lives inside me. When faced with difficult circumstances, I've learned to observe rather than judge. I no longer ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, I ask, what is this showing me about what's within me? There was a time when I experienced betrayal, and instead of casting blame, I chose to quietly face the deeper fears beneath it. The fear of abandonment, the fear of not being enough, the fear of not being chosen. And then I understood it wasn't fate nor the other person, but my own unhealed fear that drew me into that experience. It was the energy I carried reflected back to me. The world is a mirror. It does not lie. It does not hide. It does not judge. It simply reflects back to you the truest image of who you are in this moment. If there is chaos within you, the world will appear chaotic. If there is peace within you, you will walk into any space and feel harmony there. You do not need to fix the world. You only need to transform yourself. And then, as if by magic, everything around you begins to change. I remember walking into a room once where tension was so thick you could almost touch it. Instead of bracing myself for defense, I chose to carry stillness within me. I didn't speak much. I simply showed up with openness and softness in my presence. And within minutes something shifted. The energy in the room softened. Conversations that were confrontational became collaborative. No one announced it. No one planned it. It simply happened. That wasn't control. It was resonance. Because the world ultimately always aligns itself with the vibration of the one perceiving it. Sometimes you won't like what you see. You'll want to avoid it, deny it, or even shatter the mirror altogether. But the truth is, the mirror only reflects. It carries no fault. And if you are brave enough to look into that reflection without defense, you will see the door to liberation open before you. Because it is only when you recognize the shadows within yourself that you can finally bring light to them. And when you make peace within the outer world stops feeling like a battlefield. The world is not against you. It is helping you see yourself. The people you meet are not here to hurt you. They are here to awaken something you need to remember. Every betrayal is an invitation to return to your worth. Every rejection is a chance to choose deeper self-love. Every undesired circumstance is a mirror showing you the belief still standing between you and the free radiant light that has always lived within you. When I finally understood this, I stopped fearing the world. I stopped seeing it as a place I needed to fight against. I began to see it as a stage, not one where I perform for others, but one where my truest self has the chance to express itself fully. And if I don't like a particular scene playing out on this stage, I don't need to tear the set down. I simply rewrite the script from within, because the play is only the surface. My soul is the quiet author beneath it all. Take a moment to observe what you are reflecting into the world today. Who is challenging you? Which circumstances are testing you? Everything you face is helping you turn inward. Not to judge yourself, but to remember you hold the power to choose a new vibration, to rebuild your beliefs, to transform from the deepest roots. Begin with honesty. No excuses, no blame, no sugarcoating. Simply acknowledge, the world I see is my mirror. And if you want to change the picture, do not waste time painting the frame. Change the colors from the canvas of your heart. Every person you have ever met has come into your life for a deeper reason than you might think. They did not appear by chance, nor did they randomly enter your life only to disappear. They are living lessons, gentle knocks, or fierce disruptions sent by life itself to help you remember who you truly are. Whether you call them friends, lovers, parents, enemies, or passing strangers, each of them is playing a role in the script your soul wrote long ago. They come to heal you, or they come to awaken you. And sometimes they come to do both. I used to see those who hurt me as bad people. I used to believe that if they hadn't acted the way they did, I would never have suffered. But over time, as I quietly looked back with distance and maturity, I began to understand they were never my enemies. They were mirrors. They didn't harm me. They reflected the parts of me that needed to be seen, faced, loved, or released. No one can touch a wound within you unless the wound already exists. And paradoxically, these very people were the ones who helped me heal. Not through kindness, but through friction. Not through comfort, but through the challenges that left me with no choice but to finally face myself. They were the ones who left me when I was clinging on. The ones who rejected me when I sought their validation. The ones who fell silent when I longed to be understood. I resented them for a long time until I realized their leaving was a gift. They did not stay so that I could finally learn how to stay with myself. Some people come into your life carrying light. They arrive gently, quietly, almost as if they had always been there, unassuming, unconditional. They don't try to change you. They simply love you as you are. And in their presence, you begin to love yourself more. You begin to notice the goodness within you that you had long forgotten. They don't heal you with techniques or teachings, but through pure, silent acceptance. Souls like these are rare, but once you meet them, you are never the same person again. And then there are those who arrive like a thunderclap, shaking you awake. They stir things up, disrupt, and turn your world upside down, forcing you to question everything, your values, your boundaries, your definitions of love, your understanding of truth. They may come disguised as the wrong relationship, a demanding partner, a rebellious child, or a betraying friend. They don't come to make you comfortable. They come to shatter the shells you mistook for yourself. And when everything falls apart, you finally see the foundation beneath. Who are you when no one else is there to define you? Every encounter is a soul contract. You may not remember signing it, but your soul remembers perfectly. Before you came into this world, you had already agreed to meet certain people at specific times in specific states of being, to fulfill something greater than any surface-level reason. It may be a lesson in loving. It may be a lesson in letting go. It may be a lesson in forgiveness. It may be a lesson in saying no. Whatever the lesson is, its purpose is always the same, to bring you closer to your truest essence. There are people you will have to let go of, even when you still love them. There are people you will never meet again, even though you once thought you'd never part. But parting is also part of the lesson. Some souls come only to walk with you for a while, to show you something important, and then leave exactly when they are meant to. They do not stay, not because they don't love you, but because their role is complete. Holding on will not help you grow. It only ensures the lesson will return wearing a different face. I used to wonder why some good people face so many challenges in their relationships. And then I understood. It's because they came into this life to learn the deeper lessons. Their souls chose to grow through friction. And the people who step into their lives are the trainers in that classroom. Someone who deceives you teaches you how to discern the truth. Someone who controls you teaches you how to set boundaries. Someone who leaves you teaches you how to stand on your own. None of these lessons are easy, but every single one of them is necessary. Others are not wrong for reacting from their own wounds. They are just like you, wrestling with their own shadows and light. Sometimes you are their lesson, sometimes they are yours. And the most beautiful connections are the ones where both souls heal through each other without ownership, without demand, simply through presence. That is the kind of relationship your soul longs for, not to possess, but to be free together. Look closely at the people you resent, the ones you miss, the ones you've drifted from, and the ones who still walk beside you. Every single one of them carries a message for you. Don't rush to label the relationship as good or bad. Instead, ask yourself, what have I learned from them? How have I changed since I met them? And most importantly, what part of myself are they showing me that I need to acknowledge? When you begin to see others through the eyes of the soul, you no longer seek to control or judge them. You start to recognize the sacredness within everyone, both in those who brought you joy and those who caused you pain. Because in the end, they are all extensions of you. They are the paths your soul chose to walk, the mirrors you needed to pass by, so you could finally return to yourself, whole, awakened, and complete. Every time you open your mouth, you are not merely speaking, you are planting a seed in the invisible field of life. Words do not simply pass like the wind. They linger, they seep in, and they take root. Words carry vibration. Every sound you release carries the energy to create, or to destroy, to uplift, or to diminish, to heal, or to poison. And what you speak doesn't only affect others, it shapes you. It rewires your subconscious, touches the structure of your cells, your bloodstream, and even the rhythm of your heartbeat. In the deepest sense, words are a spiritual ritual. I once lived a long time without paying attention to the words I spoke. I let complaints slip out as if they were habits. I spoke of myself with unconscious, self-deprecating humor. I released irritation through sharp, cutting words, and each time I believed I was simply venting, releasing, making myself lighter. But in reality, I was carving deep grooves of distorted beliefs into my own being. I was repeatedly telling myself that life was hard, that I wasn't enough, that others were the reason I was unhappy. And the world, like an honest, unrelenting mirror, kept reflecting those very beliefs back to me. Until one day I became still enough to realize words are not harmless. They are more powerful than anything I have ever possessed. A single sentence can push someone to the edge of despair. Another spoken at the right moment can pull them back from the depths. And within myself, the words I repeated daily, "I can't, I'm so tired, I'll never achieve anything," were quietly designing my destiny. I needed no curse from anyone else. I was cursing myself with my own voice. So I began to change, starting with the smallest steps. I stopped making negative jokes about myself. I stopped joining in when others complained. I stopped beginning my mornings with a sigh. Instead, I started to speak simple, life-giving phrases. Something wonderful is coming my way today. I am enough. I am loved. I didn't wait until I believed them to speak them. I spoke them so that I could believe. I spoke them to rewrite the programming inside me. At first it felt unnatural, almost fake. But then I realized everything we learn feels unnatural at first. We learn to walk, to talk, to love, all through repetition. And so it was with this. I began learning to speak words of creation. Every sentence became a new seed. Every morning became a new field waiting to be sown. And I chose to plant seeds of light. I started treating language with the same caution as if I were holding a razor-sharp sword. Because words can heal or cut so deeply that no apology can undo them. A careless remark can fracture a relationship. A single reckless phrase can shatter the trust someone spent a lifetime building. But the opposite is equally true. One timely word, spoken gently, can become the bridge that leads a lost soul back home. Words mirror the state of your inner world. You cannot speak tenderness if your heart is steeped in poison. You cannot speak inspiration if your being is drenched in despair. And yet this is why words are also the perfect doorway to healing. By changing the words you choose, you begin to shift the way you think, the way you feel, and ultimately the way you live. Try speaking kindness even when you feel no one deserves it. Try speaking hope even when everything seems grey. Not to pretend, but to lead your consciousness beyond old habits. Most importantly, pay attention to how you speak about yourself. Never underestimate the weight of phrases like, "I'm not good enough," "I'm unlucky," or "I'm nothing special." These words don't just fade into the air. They embed themselves deep into your subconscious like poisoned arrows, and one day you'll find yourself living exactly as you once declared. Change your language. Begin with phrases like, "I am learning, I am growing, I am opening to greater good." You don't need to lie. You simply need to choose words that lift you higher. Words are the bridge between the invisible and the visible. When you speak something with sincerity and focus, you call it closer to you. That is why in many ancient cultures, prayers, affirmations, and mantras carried the power to transform reality. It isn't that the words themselves are magic, it's the vibration you release when you speak them that creates a new world. You cannot speak, "I am poor" every day and expect wealth to come. You cannot declare, "I am unlucky" and demand miracles. You cannot keep calling darkness by name and hope for light to appear. If you cannot yet speak words that uplift, begin with silence. And when you are ready, let your words be light nourishment and fresh water flowing first into yourself and then into everyone around you. Every word you utter is a declaration, and the universe is listening. Ask yourself, what have I been saying to the world today, to the ones I love, to myself? What seeds have I been planting with my voice? And then remind yourself of this one truth. If the world you'll live in tomorrow is the garden you're of, planting today, what words must you speak now to create your own spring? You may think that words are merely tools for communication, but in the unseen realm, words are energy, creative forces with the power to build or destroy, uplift or confine, illuminate or drown. The language you choose every day, every hour, every moment is shaping your relationship not only with others but with yourself and with the world around you. There are 3 realms where you must exercise absolute mindfulness with your words, with yourself, with others, and with the world. First, the words you speak to yourself. This is the quietest yet most powerful place of all. Every whisper in your mind, every phrase you mutter under your breath when you look in the mirror, every sigh, every careless thought, these are affirmations you are constantly repeating. The subconscious does not distinguish between truth and jest, sarcasm and sincerity. It simply listens, absorbs, and acts upon what it hears. If you tell yourself, "I am unlovable," you will gradually begin to live as though it's true. If you repeat, "I am incompetent," your subconscious will work tirelessly to prove you right. You are always the first to hear what you say, and you are the one most deeply affected by it. Do not underestimate the damage of a self-deprecating joke. Do not take lightly the casual phrases of self-judgment. Each time you do, you chip away at your own life force. Be especially mindful when using the words "I am," for whatever follows those words becomes the framework of your identity. I am a victim, I am unlucky, I am a failure. These are not just statements, they are declarations, molds that shape your future. Next, the words you offer to others. Sometimes a single sentence can become a weight someone carries for the rest of their life. You cannot know what someone else is holding inside, what edge of emotion they are standing on, what darkness they may be facing. That is why every word you speak should be chosen with love and awareness. Not to avoid offending, but to avoid adding to another's pain. A sincere compliment can save a soul that's on the verge of breaking. A gentle question can open a doorway for someone to return to themselves. Conversely, a sarcastic remark, a careless judgment, even when unintended, can close a heart tightly shut. Speak as though every word is medicine. Listen as though even your silence has the power to heal. For language does not only pass through the lips, it radiates from the heart and touches another heart. Finally, the words you speak about the world. The way you describe life each day defines the reality you live in. If you constantly repeat, "Life is harsh, people are selfish, the world is falling apart," then you will unconsciously filter your experiences to find proof that confirms those beliefs. Your perception becomes distorted by the declarations you've made. You stop noticing the good, not because it ceases to exist, but because you've trained yourself to no longer look for it. The language you use to describe the world functions like a reverse prayer. It sends out vibrations, and the world, like a mirror, reflects back exactly the frequency you emit. If you want to live in a world filled with hope, light, and compassion, you must begin to speak of such a world with an open heart, not to paint it unrealistically rosy, but to consciously choose to see the higher truth beneath the chaos. Speak of solutions, of trust, of humanity. Be the voice this world longs to hear. Mastering your words does not mean living timidly or suppressing your expression. On the contrary, it is an act of powerful intention. When you recognize the weight of words, you begin to wield them as something sacred. You choose when to speak and when to remain silent. You learn how to express your truth without betraying yourself, and yet without diminishing others. You choose to speak the right thing at the right time in the right way, like an artist composing a spiritual symphony through sound. And then you realize mastery of language is not about speaking less, but about speaking with depth. Not everyone is worthy of every word, and silence is not always surrender. Sometimes a glance, a touch, or a conscious breath carries more resonance than 100 empty sentences. To master your words is to use them as light, not blinding, not scorching, but illuminating the path and warming the soul. I have witnessed people who speak as if every word they utter carries love. Whether they're talking to a child, a stranger, or themselves, they never use language carelessly. They don't use words to inflate their ego, but to connect. They don't use language to manipulate, but to uplift. And in that I understood when words flow from an awakened heart, they become blessings for the world. You can begin today. Listen to the words you repeat to yourself upon waking. Notice how you narrate your story about yourself, about others, about life. Ask yourself, does this word bring me closer to my true self? Does it heal? Does it build? And if the answer is no, pause, choose again. For every word you speak is a seed, and the harvest will always come whether you pay attention or not. You may have believed that you are a separate individual distinct from the world around you, that you are a body living among countless other bodies carrying your own pain, your own dreams, your own path. But that is only a perception, not the truth. This sense of separateness arises from the illusion of the ego, from an unawakened mind, from the habit of viewing everything through the lens of division. The sacred, profound, eternal truth is this: there is no separation. All life, you see, the trees, the soil, the stones, the people, every living being emerges from the same source. That source has no form, belongs to no religion, needs no definition, yet it is ever present. You may call it God, the original energy, the creator, or simply life itself. But whatever name you choose, that source flows within you, within me, within every breath of wind, every drop of water, every silent heartbeat of the universe. We are not separate from each other. We are simply carrying different forms of the same single essence. When you breathe, the very air you inhale has already passed through countless lungs before yours. When you drink water, you are absorbing molecules that have flowed through rivers, touched tree roots, and fallen from clouds on the other side of the earth. When you love, that feeling does not stay confined within your chest. It ripples outward, vibrating through space, affecting others in ways they may never consciously realize. You have never lived in isolation. You have never taken a step without leaving an imprint. Every action, every thought, every intention you hold sends waves into the great ocean of one life. We have been taught to compare, to compete, to affirm our worth by denying the worth of others. This has led us to believe that we must be more than someone else to matter, that if someone wins, we must lose, that if they have more, we must have less. But this is the mathematics of scarcity, not the truth of the universe. In the realm of the soul, no one is greater and no one is lesser. No one stands above and no one lies beneath. There is only diversity, and every form contributes to the wholeness of the totality. An ant is no less sacred than a human. A stone is no less valuable than a flower. A newborn child is not less wise than an elder. They are simply at different stages within the infinite circle of life. When you see yourself as higher than another, you cut yourself off from the source. When you see someone else as lower, you sever yourself from your own true essence. But when you see another as an extension of yourself, you move closer to the light. To realize there is no separation is also to understand that another's suffering is not apart from you. When someone else is in pain, some part of you is wounded too. When another is healed, some part of you is lifted as well. We are not isolated islands. We are strands in an invisible web. When you sow hatred, hatred will find its way back to you in another form. When you sow love, love will return unexpectedly, abundantly, inevitably. This is not a philosophy to contemplate. It is a truth to be lived. Every time you look at someone with kindness, you are healing yourself. Every time you forgive, you are unshackling your own soul. Every time you help someone without expectation, you reconnect with the eternal flow of life itself. You do not need grand gestures. A gaze, a smile, a simple act infused with pure awareness, these are enough to dissolve the illusion of separation that humanity has carried for far too long. And then you will see the ego divides, but the soul unites. The ego fears losing, but the soul knows nothing can ever be lost. When you live from the soul, you do not need to compete to be loved. You do not need to grasp to be seen. You do not need to be more to feel enough, for you have always been enough, and so has everyone else. All comparison becomes meaningless when you realize everything is simply one expressing itself through countless forms. The world will not change when a few great individuals do extraordinary things. The world will change when ordinary people begin living from the awareness of no separation, when you stop blaming, when you stop judging, when you stop thinking in terms of them and us, when you begin to see yourself in the eyes of another, when you speak to others as though you are speaking to a part of yourself, then the walls between you and the world will dissolve, and love will become the most natural language there is. I do not ask you to believe this immediately. I only invite you to try living it for one day. See everyone as different waves of the same vast ocean. Act as if each person you meet is a sacred reminder that you are never alone. Ask yourself, If they and I are one, how would I act differently? And then you will realize separation was never real. It was only a dream. And when you awaken from that dream, you will no longer feel isolated. You will no longer fear. You will no longer cling to a sense of lack. For you will know you are held by a life far greater than any name you can give it, surrounded by infinite expressions of the same love. And in that love, you need not prove yourself, you need not fight, you need not become someone else. You need only be, for you too are one with all that is. There is something seemingly invisible, yet it weaves itself silently into every corner of our thoughts, emotions, and the way we live. It has no specific shape, no voice of protest, and it never openly declares war. It moves quietly, planting fear, creating boundaries, and building walls between you and others, between you and life itself, even between you and your own being. That something is the illusion of separation. This illusion begins when you are very young. You are taught, this is your body, this is your toy, you must try harder to be better than others. You grow up in a world where everything is divided by lines and labels, my house versus yours, this country versus that, right versus wrong, winning versus losing. And gradually you become used to thinking of yourself as a lone individual, struggling to survive among countless other lonely individuals. You begin to feel separate from the world, from your community, from your loved ones, even from your own soul. From that root, fear grows. Fear of not being enough, fear of being left behind, fear of failure, fear of illness, fear of death. For if you truly believe you are an isolated entity, then every loss becomes terrifying. And to hide that fear, you learn to fight, to compete, to build an armor around yourself so no one sees your softness within. But the more you try to protect the self, the more isolated you feel. You begin to see others as threats, life as a battlefield, and each new day as another exhausting struggle. And that is when your body begins to speak, not to punish you, but to remind you of what you have forgotten, who you truly are. Every illness carries a message that the separation you believe in isn't real. A healthy body is one that lives in harmony both within itself and with the world around it. But when you live in constant tension, resistance, and resentment, your body absorbs that energy day after day. It reacts not because it is weak, but because it has been unheard for too long. Illness is not your enemy. It is a reminder. Fear is not your nature. It is the byproduct of a mistaken belief. Conflict is not destiny. It arises only when two egos both believe they are separate and must defend themselves at all costs. If you look deeply enough, you will see no one is truly against you. They are merely trying to protect their own tender places just as you are. When you stop fighting others, you stop fighting yourself. The illusion of separation also causes you to run away from your inner world. You begin to believe that emotions must be controlled, that pain must be buried, that wounded memories should be forgotten. But emotions do not disappear. They only sink deeper, expressing themselves later as anxiety, insomnia, exhaustion, or sudden anger you cannot explain. When you refuse to face your pain, you also block your path to healing. And so you turn outward to fill the emptiness with work, money, relationships, recognition. Yet nothing external can ever fill the inner void, because that sense of lack is not real. It is only the result of a mistaken belief that you are somehow separated from the source, from love, from the safety that has always been yours. But nothing can truly separate you from the source. You only need to remember, and when you remember, everything begins to shift. You realize no one is truly that different from you. The one you once hated also has dreams just like you. The one you once blamed has known pain just like you. The one you once avoided is also finding their way back to themselves just like you. When you see this, your heart softens. The heaviness dissolves. The resentment fades. What remains is understanding, and understanding always leads to love. There is no separation between you and life. There is no boundary between body and spirit. Everything is connected through an invisible current, a sacred thread that flows from the smallest cell to the farthest star, from a drop of water to the deepest soul. When you shift your thoughts, the world shifts. When you heal within the circumstances outside, you begin to mirror that healing. Not because you are trying to be positive, but because you are returning to your natural state where everything is already whole. The world does not need more debates about right and wrong. The world needs more hearts willing to live openly, to lay down their defenses, to see others through the eyes of connection. And you don't need to wait for anyone else to start. You can begin now by forgiving an old memory, by listening to your body with gratitude, by withholding judgment when someone behaves differently from you, by stopping the habit of blaming yourself when you feel vulnerable. You do not need to become perfect, because at your deepest essence you are already a perfect part of the whole. You need add nothing. You need fix nothing. You only need to remember this: there is no separation. There is no me and them. No inside and outside. There is only one life living through you, loving through you, healing through every experience you walk through. And when you truly realize this, every illness, every fear, every conflict stops being an enemy and instead becomes a bridge that leads you back to yourself. There are burdens no one else can see, yet you carry them on your shoulders every single day. They don't call your name. They don't knock on your door. They don't scream aloud. But they are there, woven into every weary breath, reflected in eyes that have long forgotten how to sparkle, lingering in the inexplicable heaviness that greets you each morning. These burdens may carry the name of an old wound, a betrayal, a harsh word, or an embrace that never came. And the most frightening part is not the memory itself, but the way you've allowed it to define who you are for so long. Forgiveness is not easy. It is not denial of the pain, nor is it a rejection of what you went through. Forgiveness is not for their peace, it is for yours. Because as long as you refuse to forgive, you remain bound to that past, as if every word, every glance, every act continues to happen in the present, looping endlessly in your mind. And whether that person still exists in your life or not, you carry them within you like a blade that has never been removed. Imagine yourself as a bird. Your wings are strong and your soul was born to soar freely into open skies. But the chains of resentment, blame, and unresolved pain keep you tethered to the ground. You gaze upward, longing to fly. You see others moving lightly and wonder silently, why can't I be like them? The answer lies in your own hands. You are still holding on tightly to what was meant to be released. Forgiveness is an act of courage. It requires you to face the deepest wounds within yourself. It demands that you rise above the craving for justice and choose freedom instead. You may have told yourself, I'll forgive when they admit they were wrong. I'll forgive when they change. I'll forgive when I feel strong enough. But true forgiveness does not depend on them. Forgiveness is the gift you give to yourself. It's the whisper you offer your heart. We don't need to imprison ourselves in pain anymore. We are allowed to be at peace. When you forgive, you are not dismissing the pain. You look it straight in the eye and say, thank you for teaching me to grow stronger, but from this moment on, I choose not to carry you anymore. Forgiveness does not mean you allow others to continue hurting you. It is not permission for harm. It is the resetting of boundaries, saying no to what no longer serves your growth or your peace. Forgiveness does not erase the memory, but it transforms it from a prison sentence into a lesson learned. You can forgive others, but just as importantly, you must learn to forgive yourself. Perhaps you made choices you now regret. Perhaps you spoke words you wish you could take back. Perhaps you stayed too long or left too soon. Perhaps you hurt someone, or yourself. But no one is born knowing everything. You are here to learn how to be human, and sometimes the lessons come at a painful price. That does not make you unworthy. It only proves that you dared to live and you are daring to grow. Inner freedom does not come when life becomes perfect. It comes when you choose to stop letting the past control your emotions, to stop letting others decide your worth. It comes when you can pause even in the middle of anger and gently whisper, I choose peace. And in that single moment, you reclaim your power not to dominate anyone else, but to return home to yourself. Many fear that forgiveness is weakness, but in truth, refusing to forgive gives your past the power to control you. Forgiveness requires strength. It asks the ego to bow. It asks pride to make space for compassion. It asks the heart to become wide enough to gather the broken pieces and turn them into light. Forgiveness is the first step on the path to healing. It is the doorway through which transformation quietly begins. Perhaps you were hurt by someone close, a loved one, a friend, someone you trusted deeply. And those wounds always cut the deepest because you never imagined they could hurt you. Yet precisely because you once loved them, you hold the power to release them from the image frozen in your memory. To forgive them is to forgive the part of yourself that was once intertwined with them. And when you do not only heal yourself, you release the energy of pain from flowing further into the world. You cannot carry the luggage of the past and still walk steadily into the future. You cannot rise if you are still wearing chains. You cannot truly love anyone if you have not yet forgiven the first person who made you bleed. Every time you cling to resentment, you lock your heart inside an invisible prison. But you were not born to be a prisoner. You were born to live free light and unburdened, like the sky after rain. And one day you will look back at what once made you weep and smile at it all. Not because it no longer matters, but because you have grown larger than the pain. Because you have learned to love yourself enough to no longer walk hand in hand with bitterness. because you have chosen to let go, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Then you will finally understand forgiveness does not need an apology. It does not wait for the world outside to change. It begins with a quiet intention in your heart. I choose to end this battle. I choose to return to the light within me. And from there you will feel lighter, light enough to fly, light enough to love again, light enough to truly live like a river, free of stones, like a bird unbound by strings, like a soul unobstructed by any weight that could ever dim its light. There is a kind of sound that does not come from the outside. It is not the ringing of bells, not an echoing voice, nor the noise of everyday life. It is the sound of deep truth, gentle and pure, like a formless breeze. This sound only emerges when the mind stops speaking, when every question is released, and when you are brave enough to sit in silence with yourself. This silence is not emptiness. It is the space where the soul begins to speak. We grow up in a world of noise. From childhood we are taught to think, to react, to do something in order to have value. We learn to analyze, debate, question, and seek answers out there. But no one teaches us how to sit still. No one tells us that in stillness we can touch something that lies beyond words. And so when life becomes chaotic, we often seek more noise to fill the void, a conversation, a movie, a list of tasks. Yet the more noise we chase, the further we drift from ourselves. The mind is like water. When stirred by worry, anger, desire, or fear, it becomes murky, reflecting distorted images of reality. In that state, you cannot see the light of truth. But when the mind settles, becoming as clear and calm as a lake at dawn, the truth begins to reveal itself. There is no need to search, no need to strive. Truth arises in silence because it has always been there. You cannot hear the voice of the divine amidst the echoes of anxiety, for he does not shout. He does not compete with the world. He whispers in peace, in the stillness between two breaths, in the moment you pause long enough to turn inward. And in that moment you realize it is not that the world is too loud, it is that your mind has never truly been quiet. Silence does not mean sitting still while your thoughts continue their endless chatter. True silence happens when you become the witness, without judgment, without clinging, without trying to understand. You simply are. At first, the mind will resist. It will create even louder noise. It will make you restless, uncomfortable, perhaps even hollow. But if you are patient enough to move beyond the first wave, you will step into a space where words are no longer necessary. There you are no longer the seeker, you are the answer itself. The world will always have problems. The mind will always find reasons to stay busy. But you don't have to solve everything at once. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit down, close your eyes and breathe slowly. Not to escape, but to connect. Each time you choose silence, you are sending a signal to the universe that you are ready to listen to something deeper than any voice, that you trust there is a greater intelligence at work, and that this intelligence lives within you. People often ask, what should I do next? But the more important question is, am I quiet enough to hear the answer? Guidance is always present, but we are too occupied to notice it. It rarely comes as a detailed plan. It arrives as clarity within a quiet knowing, a certainty beyond reason. And that clarity only comes in silence. Silence is also an act of faith. Faith that you do not have to control everything. Faith that you are not in a race against time. Faith that by pausing, you are entering a deeper dimension where real miracles unfold. Hurry is the language of fear. Silence is the voice of love. Every moment you choose to return to silence is a moment of healing. You need no one else. No tools, no rituals, just you, fully present with yourself. In silence, you discover that you are never alone. You are held within a field of unconditional love, surrounded by a wisdom beyond words, immersed in an eternal current of spiritual intelligence. And all that is required to touch it is to stop resisting, to stop speaking, to stop striving, to simply be. In that stillness, every cell in your body listens. Every heartbeat aligns with the rhythm of the universe. And the voice you have longed to hear does not come from outside, it rises from the deepest place within you. The world praises knowledge, action, and eloquence, but the great masters have always known silence is the root. From silence, wisdom is born. From silence, clarity emerges. And only in silence do you truly know who you are, where you are meant to go, and what is real. No classroom can teach this. No book can hand it to you. Silence is an experience, a quiet appointment between your soul and God. If you feel lost, confused, or uncertain about your path, sit down. Do not rush to find the answer. Do not hurry to ask someone else for guidance. Choose silence as a sacred ritual. Let your thoughts pass like drifting clouds. Do not chase them, do not grasp them. Hold the inner space gently and the answer will arrive. Not because you searched, but because you stopped filling the space where it has always been waiting. When the mind becomes still, God speaks. He does not come as a booming voice from afar, nor as a supernatural vision. He comes as a deep knowing in your heart, as an awareness beyond words, yet more certain than anything you have ever heard. And when that happens, you will no longer need to ask, "How do I believe?" Because you will simply know without reason, without evidence, that you have never for a single moment been abandoned. Silence is not an escape from the world. It is the way you return carrying light, carrying clarity, carrying an unshakable faith that allows you to live fully and deeply. And each time you return to this sacred silence, you move closer to your divine essence. You invite the highest within you to speak. You allow the divine to live through you, not loudly, not chaotically, but quietly, like the soft breath of twilight at the close of day. There are prayers that require no words, no pleading, no explanations, just complete presence, a gentle breath, a gaze turned inward, a soul as silent and open as the sky at dawn. In that space there are no desires, no worries, no division between the one who speaks and the one who listens. There is only oneness, and it is there in that stillness that you meet God. People often think of prayer as an action, a string of sacred words, a ritual, a way to ask something from a higher power. They kneel, plead hope, and wish for a change to come from outside themselves. But in the depths of the spiritual path, prayer is not words sent toward the heavens. It is the state of deep inner stillness. It is when you stop searching, stop asking, stop striving to receive, because in that moment you realize you already have everything. Stillness does not come from retreating from the world, but from sitting in the very heart of life with an unshaken spirit. You still hear the cars, the chatter, the movements all around you, but within you lies a still lake, untouched and unmoved. And it is in this state that you no longer need to call for God. He has always been there. You only need to notice. Wordless prayer is alignment. It is when you no longer see God as someone out there, but as an inseparable part of you. It is when you no longer feel the need to convince him to help you because you know he is the very life breathing through you. It is when you stop asking and start listening, not with your ears, but with your soul, listening through stillness, listening through a knowing that cannot be spoken. The deepest prayer is not, "Grant me this." It is, "Allow me to see what is already here." It is not about changing circumstances, but about transforming perception. It is not for the outer world to shift, but for your eyes to clear, so that you can see the truth hidden beneath the dust of worry, longing, and regret. In that moment, the stillness within you is no longer ordinary silence. It becomes a doorway, and this doorway does not lead you elsewhere. It leads you back to yourself, to the sacred essence that has always been present, waiting patiently for you to stop shouting so it can finally speak. When you sit in complete stillness, you realize that every prayer you've ever uttered was the echo of a mind that did not yet trust enough. For those who truly trust no longer need to speak, no longer need to ask. They simply are. And that presence itself becomes the clearest prayer to the universe. Just like a child resting in its mother's arms does not need to ask to be loved, its being there is already the request and the answer. Just like the sun does not need to announce that it shines, its radiance is its nature. True stillness is the same. It needs no explanations, no persuasion. It is the natural state of the soul when it returns to its rightful place in the vastness of existence. Within that stillness, everything you need arises not as objects but as awareness. You realize you lack nothing, that there is no need to chase more light because you are the light. There is no need to seek strength because you are the strength. And when this knowing awakens in silence, the entire universe seems to bow and whisper, "Yes, you have remembered." This is not the shallow stillness of a brief moment of relaxation. This is sacred stillness, a ceremony without bells or chants, yet holier than any temple or monastery. For your body itself is the temple, your heart is the altar, and every breath, when taken with full awareness, becomes the deepest prayer the cosmos has ever heard. When you truly step into this state, you understand why all enlightened ones speak of stillness, because nothing profound can be heard while you are speaking, nothing greater can pour in when you are already full, nothing divine can shine through when your mind is cluttered with old stories. Sacred stillness has no drama, no climax, no applause. It is not an experience meant to impress the mind. It awakens the soul. And once the soul awakens, you need no one to confirm it. Your presence changes, your gaze softens, your voice deepens, and you become a living prayer even when you say nothing at all. Sit down, lay your burdens aside, close your eyes, breathe slowly, and allow life itself to speak through you, not with words but with vibration, with a silence so deep that every boundary dissolves. In that moment, you are no longer you. You are the flowing river. You are the breath of existence. You are God recognizing himself through this small, fleeting form. True prayer is not about changing anything. It is about remembering what has always been true. It is not about acquiring, but about releasing. Not about demanding, but about merging. And when you pray through silence, without words, without motive, you return to the highest place where you and God are no longer two separate beings, but one. There are moments in life that feel impossible to endure. A door slams shut. Someone turns their back and walks away. An illness arrives without warning. A loss hollows out your chest and leaves you breathless. In those moments, it's easy to believe that everything is meaningless, that you're the victim of a cruel game where no one takes responsibility. But if you look deeper, you will see nothing happens by accident. Every event carries a message. Every pain holds the seed of awakening. No one is spared from wounds. Even the strongest souls, the widest hearts, have fallen to their knees in the dark. What makes the difference is not whether we can avoid suffering, but how we walk through it. Some let it break them. Others let it wake them. Just as the earth must crack for a seedling to rise, our souls too must sometimes shatter so that light can finally pour in. No suffering is ever wasted if you dare to look it in the eye. If you dare to ask, what is this pain here to teach me? Perhaps it is pride asking to be released. Perhaps it is attachment calling to be broken. Perhaps it is an old belief that no longer serves you finally crumbling. Every ache, every heartbreak, every collapse whispers the same invitation. It is time to change. The greatest upheavals often come when we've drifted too far from our essence. When the mind clings to the illusion of control. When the soul longs to return but we've ignored its call for too long. The universe is not punishing you. It is realigning you. Like a strong current redirecting a lost boat, it nudges you back toward your path. At first, the signs are subtle: weariness, confusion, emptiness. But if you refuse to listen, the signals grow louder until life itself stops you in your tracks. Some only learn gratitude after they've lost everything. Some realize after illness that they've been racing through life without truly living. Some only come to understand the gift of presence after enduring heartbreak. Every experience is a curriculum designed uniquely for your soul. Not to punish you, but to awaken you. Not to make you crumble, but to move you beyond your old self and into something greater. I've seen people emerge from their storms, softer, wiser, more compassionate. Their eyes grow gentler, their voices slow down. They no longer rush to judge right from wrong. They stop preaching. They stop condemning. Because they understand now everyone is fighting their own invisible dragons. And in that understanding, they learn to love without conditions, to accept without the urge to control. You don't have to know the reason right away. Some wounds take years before they reveal their meaning. Some doors close today, only for you to rejoice years later that you never walked through them. Some separations turn out to be disguised blessings. Don't draw conclusions while you're still in the middle of the storm. Sometimes you need to walk the entire circle before you can see the map from above. What matters is keeping your heart soft in the midst of chaos. Don't let pain harden you. Don't let loss make you shut down. In those moments, what you need most is not explanations, but presence. Take a deep breath. Look inward. Sit with your feelings. Let them pass through you like drifting clouds. And when you stop resisting, when you stop blaming, you'll start to feel something subtle shifting, gentle, but real. Pain, when walked through with awareness, becomes a doorway, a passageway leading you back to yourself. Not the self you perform for the world, but your raw, original, luminous soul. Just as metal must be tempered in fire to gain its strength, the soul must pass through the flames of life to awaken the gold of compassion, patience, and deep understanding. You don't have to fear life's upheavals. You only have to walk through them like a pilgrim crossing the desert, knowing that an oasis always waits on the other side. No journey is meaningless. No tear is wasted. Every breaking brings you closer to wholeness. And if you are brave enough to open your heart amid the ruins, you will see the sacred lies not in having never been wounded, but in choosing to love even after you have been. Trust that everything happening is not against you, it is for you. Let every pain become your guide. Let every collapse become the foundation of something new. Let every moment your heart bleeds remind you that you are still alive, and as long as you are alive, healing is possible, love is possible, meaning is always possible. You are composing the hymn of your soul note by note through every experience you live. And in that vast symphony, no low note is ever out of place. Every one of them matters. Everyone contributes to the unrepeatable melody that is you. There is something you cannot borrow, cannot memorize, and cannot imitate. yet it is the foundation upon which every miracle in this world exists. That is unconditional love. It is not governed by circumstances, does not require reciprocity, and carries no demands. It is a kind of love that does not arise from the ego's need to possess, but from the soul's recognition of the oneness that binds all life together. This love is neither loud nor dazzling. It does not need to prove itself. It exists like sunlight shining upon both roses and thorns, making no distinctions. Unconditional love does not choose whom to love, nor does it wait for others to change in order to become worthy of your affection. It simply flows a sacred current, streaming from the awakened self. And in the moments when you let go of every expectation, you become the channel through which this love moves. Perhaps you have loved with all your heart and been hurt. Perhaps you have opened yourself only to be rejected. Perhaps you have tried so hard, yet the world has disappointed you. But that is not love's failure. That is simply the confusion between unconditional love and the ego's compromises. Unconditional love does not seek to change anyone. It does not measure worth against standards or conditions. It does not say, "I love you," if it only whispers, "I love you because I see you as a sacred part of the whole." When you love this way, you no longer feel the need to hold on or control. You release, yet remain deeply connected. You do not need someone to become the best version of themselves to deserve your love, because you already see their wholeness, even when they cannot see it themselves. This love is not limited to personal relationships. It can be present in the way you look at a stranger passing by, in the way you listen without interruption, in the patience you show when someone makes mistakes. It requires no declarations, no proof, only your full presence. The world today does not lack intelligence, knowledge, or logic. What it is starving for, silently, profoundly, universally, is unconditional love. A love that does not compete, a love that does not insist on being right, a love that does not seek to fill a void but exists to remind each other of the divine essence within us all. You can be the one to carry that love into the world. You do not need to wait until you become someone else. You do not need to reach perfection. Right here, right now, in every glance, every word, every small act, you can let this love flow from you like a fresh spring in the heart of a barren desert. And then you will realize giving does not deplete you. On the contrary, every time you love without condition, a part of you becomes fuller. You do not lose, you expand. You do not weaken, you deepen. That is the paradox of sacred love. The more you give, the richer you become. The more you let go, the more you truly hold. This love must also include yourself. You cannot be a channel of divine love if you reject who you are inside. If you still carry resentment toward yourself for what has passed. If you are still trying to become someone else, just to be accepted. Unconditional love begins when you look at yourself with softness, without judgment. When you see every scar, every flaw, every wrong turn, and still say to yourself, "I love this being too, for this is also a soul learning to remember its own light." You cannot love others more deeply than you love yourself. Love does not automatically radiate outward. It must first pass through you, soften you, heal you before it can reach anyone else. And when you no longer seek love to validate your worth, you become the source itself. Wherever you go, you carry lightness with you, not because of what you say, but because of what you are. Your presence alone becomes a living reminder that love exists, and it asks for nothing to be present. You are the channel, not the origin, not the destination. You are the bridge between heaven and earth, between the divine and the human, between the unseen and the seen. Let that energy flow through you. Do not block it with fear. Do not close it off with doubt. All it asks of you is a willing heart, and love will find its way. When you meet someone in pain, don't rush to fix them. Be there like a quiet candle doing nothing, yet warm enough for the darkness to retreat. When you encounter anger, don't respond with resistance. Simply hold steady to the love within you. Unconditional love is not loud, but it carries the power to dissolve the deepest knots in the soul. No one is unworthy of love. There are only hearts that have yet to be touched by light at the right moment. And you, with your gentle presence and quiet acceptance, can be that light. Not to rescue anyone, but to remind them they have always been loved. They just forgot. The human body is not a passive machine. It does not simply obey external commands, nor was it designed to be trapped in an endless chase of illnesses and medications. The body is a living, intelligent organism, nourished not only by food, but also by the thoughts, beliefs, and vibrations you emit each day. Your cells are not mere biological units. They are loyal servants to the consciousness that governs them. They listen, they record, They respond to the signals you send from within. Every word you speak about your body, every whisper in silence, every image you hold in your mind becomes a command transmitted through every nerve, every vein, every breath. When you say, "I'm so tired," "I'm weak," "I'm sick," the body does not argue. It does not question. It obeys. It adjusts to become exactly what you declare. To your body, your consciousness is the voice of the Creator. Many people spend their lives searching for a miracle cure, but forget this simple truth. Your words are the most powerful medicine. Your thoughts are streams of energy shaping physical matter. And you, yes, you are the medicine your body has been waiting for. Not from a laboratory, not from a shiny capsule, but from coming home to yourself, from reuniting body and spirit, from no longer treating your body as separate from your soul, but instead speaking to it as a sacred companion. When you begin to speak to your body with love instead of fear, with gratitude instead of resentment, with light instead of darkness, everything starts to change. Not instantly, not dramatically, but inevitably. Tired cells begin to awaken. Stiffness begins to soften. Pain no longer appears as the enemy, but as a messenger guiding you to see which parts of your life have been neglected, which parts are crying for attention through the silent language of the body. True healing does not begin from the outside. It begins the moment you stop repeating toxic mantras about aging, illness, and limitation. Phrases like, "I'm getting old," "my knees aren't what they used to be," or "whenever the weather changes I ache" are not harmless expressions. They are self-fulfilling prophecies. And the frightening part is they always come true if you keep repeating them with unwavering belief. But you can stop, right now, in this very moment. You can choose new words for your body, words that carry vitality, youth, joy, and light. Say, "I am life. I am strength. I am light flowing through every cell. Every cell within me hears these words and awakens to new life." Don't speak just to hear yourself. Speak to feel. Speak to believe. Speak as if you are awakening a deep, forgotten connection, as if your soul and your body are finally meeting each other's gaze after a long separation. There are people who have traveled far and wide, spent fortunes, searched endlessly for healing, yet never once sat still, placed a hand over their heart, breathed deeply and whispered to their body with tenderness, "I'm here. I'm sorry for neglecting you. Thank you for carrying me this far, even when I blamed you for not being perfect. From now on, I will listen. From now on, we walk together no longer as enemies, but as one." And in that moment, something miraculous begins to unfold. Not necessarily the sudden disappearance of illness, but a shift in awareness. You no longer fear symptoms. You understand that your body has never betrayed you. It has been faithfully doing its job, signaling, warning, reminding you to return to the truths you forgot. Healing is not about silencing symptoms. Healing is about harmony, aligning thought, emotion, word, and way of life. When you stop fighting your body, you finally begin to understand the message it has been sending you all along. And when you understand, something magical happens. Pain dissolves not because you force it away, but because the lesson it carried has been learned. You are the medicine your body has been waiting for. No one else can take your place on this journey. No doctor, no treatment, no technology can reach the deepest part of you, the place only your own love can touch. Love without judgment. Love without conditions. Love that doesn't demand the body to be healthy first in order to be worthy. You love first and wellness becomes a natural consequence. Begin today. When you wake up, don't rush into the noise of the day. Take a single minute, just one, to touch your own heart and say, "Good morning, beloved body. Thank you for bringing me here. Today I will listen to you." And at night before sleep, rest your hand over your chest. Breathe softly and whisper, "I know you are healing. Thank you." These words are as simple as breath, yet if spoken from the heart, they travel deeper than any medicine can reach. They go where no scalpel, no drug, no treatment can ever touch. They awaken the part of you that has always longed to be seen, the part of you that is immortal, untouchable, and forever whole. You have always carried the miracle within you, and your words are the key. Not every miracle comes from the sky. Not every extraordinary thing descends from somewhere beyond. Some miracles make no sound, carry no radiant light, and ring no heavenly bells, yet they shake you to your very core because they happen where no human eye can see within you. All this time you have been searching for a sign, a single answer, a whisper that says you are not small, not lost, not alone in this vast, unrelenting world. You've turned the pages of countless books, followed sermons and teachings, stepped into temples and cathedrals, whispered prayers into the silence, hoping that somewhere, someone, or something would finally show you that you matter. But then there comes a moment, perhaps only a fleeting instant, when every path outside you falls silent, when all the noise recedes, and in that stillness you suddenly hear something no one has ever spoken. A strange, deep knowing rises as if someone is gazing directly into you from within you. No words, no explanations, just a presence, so real, so quiet, so luminous. That moment is revelation. It isn't something you learn, it's something you remember, like hearing an ancient melody and bursting into tears without knowing why, like walking into a dream you once had and realizing you've always belonged there. Revelation doesn't come from intellect. It arrives when the walls of the ego dissolve, when you stop straining to prove yourself, when you stop demanding answers from the world. The answers appear not because you found them, but because you finally stopped searching. And then you understand the miracle you've been longing for, worshipping from afar, imagining as something rare and unreachable, was never outside you. It has never left you. It is you, the part of you never dared to believe in, never fully lived, never had the courage to name. A miracle isn't something coming to you. It is your deepest essence waiting patiently for you to step into it as a truth you can no longer deny. You are the miracle. You do not need to become anything else to be worthy of this truth. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be untouched by pain. You don't need to rise above every flaw. Because even in your chaos, even in your doubts, even in every fall and every time you rise again, the light has always been there. Untainted, unbroken, uninterrupted. It's still there waiting for you to pause, turn inward, and finally see. We were not born to chase light outside ourselves, but to ignite the light within. No one can walk this journey for you. No teacher can give you what you already are. Every book, every practice, every guide, if they are true, only ever point you back to yourself. Nothing more, nothing less. And when you begin to live as though you are that miracle, not out of arrogance, but out of deep humility, everything around you begins to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you no longer see it through the eyes of fear. You start seeing through the lens of gratitude. You listen not to react, but to understand. You show up not to control, but to love. And from that space, you no longer perform miracles. You are the miracle in every step, every word, every silence. The world is not short of intelligence. It is not short of strength. What it longs for are souls who remember who they are. To remember that beneath all the chaos and striving, there is only one enduring truth. The sacred presence you carried from the moment you arrived here and never once lost. An eternal flame that has never gone out. A stream that has never run dry. A mirror that has never shattered, only gathered dust. And only you can wipe it clean. Don't wait for a special day to start living as though you are the miracle. Every single day is an invitation for revelation to happen. No rituals required. No omens needed. Just an honest heart. A deeper breath. A simple choice. From this moment on, I will live as though the miracle is already alive within me. Don't wait for others to confirm your worth. Don't wait for the world to approve of who you are. You must be the one to stand in your truth, claim it, and step into it fully. Not as a role to play, but as an agreement with your soul, a sacred reunion between you and the part of you you've denied for too long. Revelation happens not when you're ready to prove yourself, but when you're finally brave enough to be fully present with both your light and your shadows. And so do not be surprised when in the days ahead the familiar begins to feel new. When ordinary moments shimmer with quiet significance, a touch, a glance, a breeze, a smile. Suddenly everything becomes a mirror, and with new eyes you start to see yourself reflected in the smallest of things. You begin to understand that you have always been here, not just in this body, but in every moment, every breath, every heartbeat of existence itself. You did not come here to become someone else. You came to remember who you are, and in that, remembering the greatest miracle unfolds, you no longer search for magic, because you are the magic walking, breathing, loving, living, awakening. Always have been, always will be. This is not a journey toward a distant place, nor is it a quest to become someone else. The homecoming is a quiet movement, a turning inward from the external to the internal, from haste to presence, from fragmentation to wholeness. It begins the moment you stop running away from yourself and start living as though Christ dwells within your very heart, not as a symbol, but as a living, breathing presence pulsing through every moment of your life. I have wandered far. So far, I've spent years living in the shadow of myself, striving, proving, achieving, becoming, and yet the harder I tried, the further I drifted from what was truly precious, the stillness of the soul, the whisper of truth, the sacred presence that had been waiting all along for me to return. It was never a place, It was always a state of being, a way of living, where you no longer need to control or prove anything, because you already are whole enough and eternally worthy of love. When I stopped, when I set down every role, every mask, every armor, something remarkable began to happen. Everything became clear. Without trying to understand, I began to see. Without analyzing, I began to feel. Without resisting, I began to align. It was as though Christ within me had awakened, living, breathing, moving through me. Not through grand proclamations or rituals, but through the profound silence of an awakened heart. I am not speaking of religion, nor of ceremony. I am speaking of a state of being where you see the world through the eyes of compassion, listen to life with the ears of patience, walk upon the earth with the feet of love, and hold yourself with the hands of forgiveness. When you live like this, you are no longer a small, separate self trying to survive. You become the flow of divine life moving effortlessly through you. I've learned something through the storms. Presence is the greatest miracle. Not what you do, but how you show up while doing it. Not the words you speak, but the vibration carried beneath them. Not the form of life, but the depth of spirit that animates it. Every moment, if lived with the fullness of your heart, carries the fingerprint of God. And then you realize, there are no ordinary moments. Every breath is a miracle. Every encounter is an invitation to love. Every challenge is a doorway to growth. Nothing comes to break you. Everything comes to bring you home to live, as Christ does in kindness, humility, courage, and wholeness. I used to think enlightenment was a summit to be reached. Now I know it is a return to the simplest, deepest truth, awakening to this very moment. Not by demanding life to change, but by changing the way you enter it. Not by waiting for others to awaken, but by becoming the awakening yourself. Not by seeking love, but by embodying it. Christ does not ask you to become a monk or abandon the world. He asks you only to be present right where you are with the people you are already with. He doesn't demand perfection, only honesty. He doesn't require strength, only your willingness to stop pretending. Christ lives through the simplest gestures, the gaze you offer to someone in pain, the patience you hold when someone stumbles, the gentleness you choose when anger arises, and the kindness you give, even when there is nothing to gain. I no longer wait for a special day to live like this. Each morning when the first light touches my skin, I know today is the chance for Christ to live once more through me. No declarations needed, no grand displays, just a conscious step, a mindful word, a full present breath. That is enough. When you live this way, you stop needing anyone to understand you. You stop needing the world to validate you. You live to embody something deeper than yourself, something words cannot define, but the heart instantly recognizes the moment you come home to who you are. And in that homecoming, you realize there is nowhere else to go, nothing else to become, no better life waiting somewhere out there. There is only this life, this moment, this presence lived fully, loved completely, letting divine life flow through you like an endless river, not for a goal, not for an outcome, simply because it is the only way to live in harmony with your soul. The homecoming is not an ending, it is the true beginning. It is when you stop living as someone carried by life and start living as someone co-creating with God. It is when you stop asking, what does life have for me, and begin asking, what can I bring to life here and now? From that moment, every day becomes a hymn, every glance becomes a prayer, every action becomes a sacred ritual, and you are no longer separate from what you once sought, because you are what you were looking for. And at last, the homecoming is complete.